So I may be a Democrat, but even Democrats need some tough love. And I'm here to say, Democrats, get your heads out of your butts. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So I saw an interesting article in the New York Times today. They've been touting this recent poll that they ran that had some interesting results. The first result that they touted was, of course, the fact that Donald Trump is basically blowing away the rest of the opposition. Not only has Ron DeSantis become an also-ran, he's losing the race even among people who should be supporting him. I mean, as it seems from this polling, if Donald Trump keeps getting invited, he'll be elected president by acclamation. That's just a joke, of course. But today's article did have some sobering news. It said that while Biden is consolidating his support among Democrats, that it's still going to be a close race against Donald Trump in the fall. And this is a New York Times Siena poll, which has been touted as having one of the best records of polling in recent elections. So should Democrats be scared by this data? Well, of course. I mean, I've been saying since day one that it was going to be a tough re-election effort for Joe Biden. I mean, the right-wing forces have lined up against him, and that's part of the reason that I'm always talking about the BS that's being spewed on Fox News, so we know what we're up against. But a close race in this environment is just reality now. We're a closely divided nation. And frankly, the results from the last election have probably made us forget the fact that that actually was a very, very close election. And overall, nationally, Democrats actually lost the popular vote. Something we can't afford to do in the presidential election. So I have never said that this was going to be an easy re-election campaign. What I have said, though, is that Donald Trump will motivate Democrats to come out against him. And that appears to be the case. What this data shows clearly is that nationally, although people are unenthusiastic about both candidates, something, again, that I think will change as we get close to the election, Democrats are basically coming home, realizing that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee and generally supporting him. Although, as some say, not enthusiastically. And that's where my issue comes in. I mean, I've had my issues with Joe Biden. I've talked about some of them on this channel. He is not perfect. He'd be the first person to say he's not perfect. He'd say, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the other guy. And he's right. He's not running against God. God isn't up for election in this campaign. You've got two flawed humans who are running against each other to represent a bunch of flawed humans who are Americans. So guess what? There's going to be issues no matter how you cut it. But Joe Biden, to be fair, is a decent human being who is trying his best to do what's right by the American people. I think that we can all agree on that. And as it turns out, his policies have largely been vindicated thus far. I mean, the economy is doing fantastically well. Inflation's coming down. We bounced back from the COVID recession faster than anyone would have expected. And internationally, our profile has never been better. I mean, who would have predicted just a few years ago that NATO would be at the height of its strength right now, actually having added Finland and Sweden? It's crazy. But we can thank Joe Biden for that. But as these reporters have to do, they feel that they need to both sides every issue, which I don't blame them. I mean, they kind of feel it's their job. So what they have to do is find some Democrats who are unenthusiastic about Joe Biden. They couldn't find any who were voting against him, but they could find some who were voting for him, but not enthusiastically. Just looking up a little bit, they have a gentleman here, a 42-year-old, who's a Republican, who says that he will vote for Joe Biden against Donald Trump, which the data shows there are more than a few people for whom that's the case. But again, coming back to the Democrats, there are those who are enthusiastic about Joe Biden, such as this one, Mamia Langham, 38, a government analyst from Atlanta who described herself as a progressive, said she would vote for Mr. Biden again, but not enthusiastically. Well, let's just dig a little deeper into her reasons why she is unenthusiastic for Joe Biden's re-election. She said, and I quote from the article, Mr. Biden's tax policy has been skewed to favor the wealthy while the middle class paid more than its fair share. Quote, we're kind of smushed in the middle and we're taking on the brunt of the taxes for everybody. Okay, Joe Biden is in favor of higher taxes for the wealthy. He has stated that very clearly. He supported legislation, and he even pushed it pretty aggressively that would have raised taxes on the wealthy. The problem is, we never had the votes in Congress for that. You can thank Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona, the problem child we've talked about before in our videos, who made it very clear she was not in favor of any tax increases on the wealthy, even when we were just talking about hedge fund managers, if you can believe it. So Mamiya Langham has good reason to be angry at Kyrsten Sinema. I sure am. But to be angry at Joe Biden for that? That makes absolutely no sense. She should be actively supporting Joe Biden and pushing to elect more people who, like Joe Biden, support the wealthy paying more taxes. This kind of whining is exactly what annoys me about some of my fellow Democrats. And unfortunately, I can't just say that this is an exaggeration on the part of the New York Times here, because I've had the experience of talking with people like this and being frustrated by the fact that they're unenthusiastic about the Democratic candidate. Well, that kind of unenthusiasm about the Democratic candidate is exactly what got us the Supreme Court that we've got now. I think Democrats are finally starting to wake up to the fact that we can no longer take these things for granted. And although I hate to pick on Miss Langham, she's just an example of that kind of continuing self-defeatism that we have. Exactly the type of thing that prompted enough people to vote for Ralph Nader that Al Gore lost the 2000 election. And I think we can all imagine what a different country we'd have right now if Al Gore had been president at that point rather than George W. Bush. Here's another example, someone with an issue near and dear to my own heart. Ashlynn Cowan, 27, a research scientist from Nashville, said she wished Mr. Biden had been more aggressive about canceling student loan debt. What more could he have done? He took an executive action to impose it, realizing that it was a legal risk. And lo and behold, the Supreme Court overruled him. What more could he do, honestly? I mean, it appears that these people believe that the president has some kind of magic wand, that he can suddenly move it around and make things happen. Both these people seem like very intelligent people, and for them to say this kind of BS really bothers me. I got news for them. The president does not have a magic wand. In fact, most presidents have expressed their frustration at how little power the presidency actually has. I mean, we remember Teddy Roosevelt talking about the fact that the presidency was the greatest bully pulpit in the world. What we forget is the fact that he was expressing that within the context of the fact that the presidency has very little power, but at least it has the power to go out there and try to make public opinion. We as Democrats need to stop wishing that the Almighty was running for president. He, she, it, they, whatever, isn't. The best hope we have of getting the agenda we want done is to elect Joe Biden and elect a Democratic Congress with enough votes that we're able to ignore the Joe Manchins and Kyrsten Sinemas of the world. At that point, then, we can certainly air our opinion to try to press these people to accomplish the agenda we hope that they will accomplish. But to whine that, oh, we're unenthusiastically supporting Joe Biden because he didn't do enough on some issue he pushed forward but couldn't get done because of the Supreme Court is just absurd. So I'm asking Democrats, please get your heads out of your butts. It's about time that we started actually living in the real world rather than the worlds that we wish existed. Because guess what? That world doesn't exist. If you want to see another video where I talk about Kyrsten Sinema and how she stood in the way of taxing billionaires and hedge fund managers, check out this video over here that I did quite a while ago. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.